Hope everyone's doing well. Going to recap our bye week and then talk a little bit about Tennessee. So obviously this past week for our players, we had a couple different things we wanted to get done. We wanted to recharge mentally, rehab physically, and then get a jump start on Tennessee. I think we did a good job with that. I had an excellent 2 days of practice on Tuesday and Wednesday before we cut the guys loose for the weekend. And really the focus of that was working on fundamentals and technique in all three phases for all the guys, and then really getting a bunch of developmental work for our younger players and our redshirt guys. So kind of switching up the reps so the younger guys in the team periods and 7-on-7s got a majority of the work. So I think we did a real nice job there with player development. From a staff standpoint, we spent the whole day Monday working on self-scout in all three phases, kind of doing a comprehensive review of everything that we've done and talking personnel. Tuesday and Wednesday, we UT game plan in the morning, and then practice prep and practice in the afternoon. And then Thursday and Friday, myself and the rest of the staff hit the road recruiting. In that 2 day span, we collectively hit 101 schools and attended 20 games. And myself personally, in the 2 days, went to 14 schools and went to 4 games, one of those being a Armstrong Middle School versus Columbus Middle School 7th grade game at Columbus High School. So I was able to double dip there, which was nice to get to see my son play, the youngest one, and then get to the Starkville game to see my middle boy play against Germantown. And then on Sunday we had our first Tennessee practice yesterday, and were able to get a jump start there. Our student athletes of the week were Nathaniel Buki Watson and Brevin Jones. From an injury standpoint, I think we come out of the bye week pretty healthy. The only guy right now that if we were to play a game that would be unable to do so would be Colin Duncan with a lower body, but we are expecting him to get healed up some point this week to get him ready and get him rolling. Moving on to Tennessee, certainly it's the first time we'll face them in Knoxville since 2008, and the first time the two teams have met since 2012 here in Starkville. Not a trip that our fans make on a frequent basis. So excited to see a huge contingency of maroon and white and Bulldog faithful at Neyland Stadium, and we have currently sold 3,200 tickets for that game. Good seats still available, but not many. So hopefully we're able to see a bunch more out there on whatever market they're able to locate the tickets. Moving ahead to Tennessee. Obviously coached by Jeremy Pruitt, 6 of 11 overall at Tennessee in his second year, 1-4 overall, 0-2 in the SEC this year. But you look at the construct of the schedule, a 1 touchdown loss to Georgia State in the opener, an overtime loss to BYU that was really kind of a crazy ending to that game. And then the Georgia game against the number 3 ranked team in the country, I believe led 14-13 for a majority of the first half there. So don't necessarily think that the overall record is indicative of their talent and kind of their performance. I think they've been really close in 3 games and have done a nice job. Just kind of came out on the short end on a couple of games. Coach Pruitt is generally considered one of the top defensive minds in college football, 5-time national champion, has coordinated the number 1 defense in the country 3 times in 2013, 2016, and 2017. And collectively, you look at his body of work, and I know he has a high level of involvement in the game plan and the calling of the game. His defenses have allowed less than 17 points per game since 2013. Offensively, the coordinator is Jim Chaney. Has been around the block, very well-respected offensive mind at a bunch of different schools around the country. Balanced attack, looking to establish the run game first and set up shots down the field. Averaging 24 a game, 353 yards, fairly balanced, 138 rushing, 215 passing. Not really knowing what quarterback to see. Jarek Guarantano, 750 yards passing, 7 touchdowns. I think he's the school's leader in completion percentage. Done a real nice job as an older guy. Obviously, last week saw Brian Maurer, the freshman, 303 total yards, 2 touchdowns. Had 259 against Georgia and 209 in the first half. So very young, talented, confident. A guy who's not afraid to throw the ball down the field. The 2 running backs they use are Ty Chandler, number 8, out of Montgomery Bell Academy. Recruited him when I was at Penn State. Weren't able to get that done. 320 yards, 2 touchdowns, excellent change of direction and vision. kind of a slasher, one cut, very fast guy. And Eric Gray, local guy out of Memphis who runs hard. Freshman that's been doing a real nice job for them there. And then the top receiving threat is Juan Jennings, 395 yards, 5 touchdowns, good size, strong, reliable hands, and an excellent playmaker. Derek Ainsley is the defensive coordinator. He works with the defensive backs, base 4 down. That are able to get to some 3-down looks, play with 5 DBs against teams who are 3 or 4 wide receivers, and play some versions of single high zone, quarters, and man-to-man, allowing 28 a game, 209 passing, and 167 rushing. Darrell Taylor, number 19, the defensive lineman, 19 tackles, 2 for loss, and a sack, 2018 team MVP. The linebacker, Henry Toa, very, very, very talented young linebacker, runs very well, very physical, 32 tackles, 2.5 for loss. And then Bryce Thompson at the defensive back position, 12 tackles, 1 PBU, aggressive, physical, a guy who makes a lot of plays, very twitchy. Kevin Shears in his second season as a special teams coordinator, look to attack your weaknesses and schemes that change week to week. On kickoff, they're 93% touchbacks, kickoff return averaging 30 a game, and have a block punt for a touchdown and 9 of 10 on field goals. Marquez Callaway handles the punt returns, Ty Chandler the kickoff returns, and Brent Simagalia, 9 of 10 on field goals with a long of 51. So certainly excited to get back on the field and get ready to play another SEC game in a very challenging road environment. As I indicated to our guys yesterday and throughout the week, preparation, physicality, and precision are the 3 things that we're concentrating on to make sure that we can go 1-0 this week and hopefully get back on the right track against a very, very talented and well-coached SEC opponent. Any questions?
Joe, is there anything challenging about facing a team that's going to be as desperate as a win as Tennessee is, especially considering, how rotten their luck has kind of been, as you said, for 2 games?
I wouldn't. Every game is a must-win for everybody. You know what I mean? So I don't think that how they played this year, what their record is, or coming off of a tough loss, or having suffered some close setback is going to kind of crank up their urgency. I think in this league, the margin of error is small regardless of the opponent. So I think it's going to be challenging because it's our next game. It's on the road in a tough environment against a good football team.
With Tommy being healthy, is there a decision to be made there, or is he the starting quarterback going forward?
Both Tommy and Garrett are a little bit nicked up right now. You know what I mean? And they're not included on the injury list because they're not out. But both of them were working through some lower body things. So they both practiced fully yesterday. Today's an off day. They'll be able to come in and get some rehab and treatment on their own. And we kind of have a plan for what we expect to do with both of them healthy, and we'll continue to grind through the week and work the plan and see where we're at on Friday.
With Kareem Walker eligible and all that, what does he add to the running back group, and how nice has that been just have an extra back and guy you can hand the ball off to?
Yeah, he adds obviously experience, being at Michigan and then JUCO and then coming in, very talented. For Kareem's situation is I probably failed to update accurately. He will be an academic redshirt this year, so he'll be eligible to practice, not to play. He will be eligible to play next year. So, he's going to work and do a lot of things from a scout team perspective, kind of provide some of that, older player leadership, but he will not be able to play for us in games this year.
Bye weeks can always be kind of a tricky thing. How do you feel like the team bounced back after having a weekend at home?
No, they were great. Like I said, the 2 practices on Tuesday and Wednesday were incredibly spirited, a lot of energy, a lot of urgency. And, I think the older guys like it to see the young guys get all those reps and kind of bang around and have some fun in there. So, yeah, once we, put the game to bed on Sunday, the previous Sunday, we moved forward and had 2 good practices. And I think the kids are excited to, get back into game preparation.
Going back to the quarterbacks, about that plan, is it sort of a wait and see on Saturday type of thing, or do you have a starter in mind right now?
We have a starter in mind right now. And that doesn't preclude both from playing either in separate series or both playing at the same time either. So we have a plan for one to start, one to play, and then possibly 2 play at the same time. So cover all the bases.
Coach, obviously in this business, you're going to have assistants that run into schools that they coached at before.
Yeah.
Obviously, Bob Shute came from Tennessee, and just your thoughts on him going back and what he can be able to help. I know it's been a while, and most of those players are gone, but along those lines too, what was it about Shute that attracted you from the beginning, along with the fact that you guys worked together?
Yeah, I don't think you can ever completely, ignore the emotional component of coaching or playing in a football game against a institution where you've been before. But I think Bob's a consummate professional, and any feelings that he may have, good, bad, or otherwise, regarding Tennessee and his time there, that he can be able to put aside, and his concentration along with the defensive staff will be to put a great game plan together and make sure we're putting the kids to be in position to be successful. Obviously with his son being on the team, so more than anything, if he has awareness and knowledge of their personnel and the guys on the team who he would have been around, and I said Bob grew up in a town probably 10-15 minutes away from me, so knowing about him from a coaching standpoint for a long time, and his defenses have been very highly ranked in terms of scoring defense and total yardage for a very long time, and I'd say his intelligence, the way he motivates players, and quite frankly his production or what led him to me in the first place. And obviously in this business, it's I don't think most people make a habit of hiring people that they don't know in some capacity, or people that they know have worked with in some capacity. So Bob kind of checked off all those boxes. Kind of circular logic. I don't know if that made much sense. Did it? Yeah, gotcha. All right, good.
You mentioned all the recruiting stops that y'all made last week. Just what was the reception like? What type of feedback did you get back from the recruits?
We're not allowed to talk to the recruits, but from the coaches and the people in school, it was fantastic. So they're, I think we've really, in the past 2 years, demonstrated how committed we are to recruiting the state of Mississippi and the surrounding states in our footprint, and have the willingness and ability to go nationally for a player that has a reason to come to Mississippi State. But, the players, when we talk to them, either on the phone or via text, and the coaches and the people we see in school, love the direction, that we're heading. They're excited about Mississippi State football, and like I said, with Colin and talk about some of the other guys, there is something special to a young man and his family making the decision to stay home and play for their state university. So the coaches and the kids that we talk to during the week, they're they couldn't be more fired up about what we're doing and where we're heading.
Other questions? Steve and Todd.
Coach, along the recruiting aspect of things, when you got here, there were some things already in place, but how do you kind of sell Mississippi State? What is kind of your pitch on maybe the academic as well as the athletic side here?
Yeah, time probably prohibits kind of going into it incredibly in depth, but I think in general, when you're talking to a recruit and their families, that you want them to understand that in the 4 to 5 years or less, if it's a junior college player that they spend at Mississippi State, that it's our goal and our objective to make sure they leave a better person, a better student, a better player in that order, and that you're committed to much as their personal development and their academic welfare as you are to them as a player, and that any player who decides to come to Mississippi State can achieve all their goals and all their dreams and aspirations on the classroom and in the field. And you see that by the guys that we graduate, the jobs that they get that are non-football related, and certainly the number of kids that leave here and are able to achieve their dream of playing in the NFL.
When a game goes the way it did against Auburn, obviously fans, media, national and local, are going to start saying things. Mm-hmm. How much of that do you hear, and does that add any pressure to the next game or even the season as a whole?
Criticism relative to the Auburn game in specific? Yeah, I think, quite frankly, I mean, when you take this job, I don't know if we've had this discussion before, that, the praise and criticism are probably, something you need to be prepared for when something happens good or when something happens bad. And, if there was, and I'm sure there was, that the criticism of our performance in the Auburn game is warranted, and I accept that, and I point the finger at myself, and we needed to perform better against a quality opponent. But from an overall standpoint, I mean, there's always going to be a certain faction or segment of a fan base for any team in the country that's a vocal minority, and nothing you do is going to be good enough. And it's going to be a simmering cauldron of unrealistic criticism and revisionist history, and that is what it is. And I'm not going to focus my time or attentions or efforts on Bob from Boga Chitta's opinion of the team. You know what I mean? I'm going to do what I do to get the kids ready and understand that our administration, our players, and the coaching staff are excited about the direction we're going. And if there's criticism that's warranted, that's fine. But I look. You address it specifically, and you talk about the right now, and that you're going to continue to improve and get better. That's part of it. And then, there's not enough emotion. What are we doing to make it better? And you look back in the past 17 years, and we've had, after 5 games, have been better than 3-2 2 times. And then when you talk about building and not going back to the past, well then don't worry about the past, concentrate on now. So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. But like I said, you can't really worry about that stuff. You're confident in the plan, and just keep doing what we're doing, and know that the majority of the fan base and the people we encounter, and media, and administrators across the country, and peers in the coaching industry, and people are incredibly excited about what we're doing. But that's a very good question.
With Schrader having a few games under his belt now, I remember I think the first game he came in, you said you guys had to kind of shrink the playbook a little bit just to go with what he's comfortable with. From a tempo standpoint, is he to the point where you feel more comfortable with more up tempo with him, or is that just a progress that steadily changes from week to week?
The pace at which we play is really dictated kind of by what we see, how fast or how slow we need to play. But I think what you're seeing is a higher comfort level with the overall scope of the playbook with him. I would say it's opening up more, but his comfort level with some of the things that we're calling and his ability to see it and execute it, I think, is improving on a weekly basis.
Just with the way a game like Auburn goes, and you talk about flushing a game, just how much does it help having a week off and kind of away, and for guys to get away to just sort of refocus and get back to things and sort of just put it behind them?
I think attitude reflects leadership, so it could go one of two ways. You can either dwell on it and allow the same game to try to beat you twice, or you can, correct it, put it to bed, and move on. And we chose the latter. So I think the kids will, their actions will be dictated by what we focus on, and our focus was to correct it, understand that it wasn't acceptable, and we needed to do better in that game, and then move on to Tennessee. So it depends. If you allow it to fester, it's going to fester. If you kind of put it to bed, it'll be put to bed, and we chose that.
Coach, forgive me if you've already answered this in past weeks, but how late in the week of game week do you determine who will play, who will not play in terms of suspensions?
Beginning of the week. And it goes a little bit deeper into that, but beginning of the week. He's on fire today. I love it.
Kind of going off of Danny's question, and I'm not sure how much you can say about this.
I'll let Bill decide on that.
Okay. But did you have a relative plan in place of when guys might play, or is it all rolling, week to week?
No, I mean, for me to kind of explain what it was would probably not be. I'll let you and Bill handle that offline. Okay.
Similar question. It's when you have a situation like this where there are things that are kind of beyond your control, how frustrating is it as a coach, week to week to have to game plan around something like that?
Yeah, it's less than ideal. I would put it that way. When there's a certain number of guys and the talent level, some of the guys that you'd like to, but it's like anything. There's reasons and there's reasons and excuses, and I don't, if you look hard enough, you could find an excuse, but we don't want our kids to kind of delve into that mindset and that mentality, and it happened. It's unfortunate. There's choices and consequences, but we're doing our dangest as a coaching staff to make sure that it's not a distraction, and the guys that are available on a given week, we're going to fight like hell to get them ready and do well preparing, and then take the field with who's available, and do our best to be 1-0 on a weekly basis. But it's incredibly challenging, yes.